If you're in your mid 20s and onwards and you feel like life doesn't make much sense for you right now, in this episode I'm going to be exploring some of the reasons why you may feel this way and how to make sense of it. So stay tuned. If you're in that space like I have been, and most people are in this time of their life when they're in their 20s onwards and they're just trying to kind of understand how does life make sense for them right now? What does life mean for them right now? And just kind of understanding like what it is they're supposed to be doing, then yeah, you're just like me, and you're probably thinking like you're also going through it as well. You know, what do you have to really say about it? And the truth is, I've got a lot to say. I've got a lot to say about it, and I've got to say about it because I'm currently going through it, and I'm currently working myself through that process. And this episode really is just to explore some of the ideas I've sort of like understood and sort of navigated through and understood to kind of help me frame my mindset about how to deal with the situation. Not only just that, I also had someone quite close to me as well express they're going through this season as well, and I just thought it'd be great to have a discussion with you guys, from myself, to just really break down um, why we all feel this way and kind of explore some of these ideas that I've kind of gathered in my search to make sense of it for myself. So, what I've come to realize is that expectations define happiness far more than your circumstances do. Now, this is something we know intuitively, but this statement here is a very good way to synthesize the experience. So, how that looks like, and something that Montesquieu said about 300 years ago, and something we still deal with now, he quoted, "If only one wished to be happy, this could be easily accomplished. We wish to be happier than other people. And this is always difficult because we believe that others are happier than they actually are." Now, as human beings, this points out the asymmetry between how we see ourselves and how we see others. And the root of that problem is that as human beings, we are naturally, comparative in nature. We don't just compare happiness in isolation, but we compare how our happiness, or we judge our happiness in how it fits into society as a hierarchy and as a structure. So it means that me, yourself, we don't just desire to be in a better situation than we were, you know, in the past, but also we want to be in a better situation than we were when people were around us, and also be in a better situation than our parents were. So where we're left now is with two real situations here where if our circumstances and our expectations are the main sort of contributors to our happiness, or they are the equation to our happiness, it means that if I want my happiness to increase, I got two options really, and that is either to make my circumstances meet my expectations, or lower my expectations to meet my current circumstances. And no one really wants to see, that's the thing, no one really wants to like sit down and, you know, de-romanticize their life and say I'm gonna lower my expectations, because by default that's not something we want to do. We want to have the nice life and the affluence, and we want to have all of these gorgeous things and these great things for ourselves. But then if we're constantly chasing something further away from us, it leaves us in this space where by we always feel like our happiness exists outside of ourselves. So we've got the option whereby we have to recognize that chasing happiness is equivalent to chasing the wind. You can't keep chasing something that is ahead of you and expecting to have it, because when you have it, essentially you're going to want something else. And it reminds me of something that I read in The Untethered Soul, which was that the mind is a problem solver. So it means even if you exist in, the epitome of bliss or in a utopia, your mind is going to look for something to solve a problem. It's going to look for a problem so it can solve it. So you're always going to be in this perpetual state of looking for something else to fill that space of gratification. Um, I remember having this conversation with one of my friends, and he was like starting a new career and, and these sort of things. And he was explaining that um, he's going to be earning X amount of money, so congratulations to him. But he was explaining to me that, he's going to be earning this much. And I looked at him and I was like, well, if you earn X amount of money or this amount of money, don't you just feel like what's the point? Let me just, you know, just settle down and just, get on with life sort of thing. Like, there's nothing really else to do. And he mentioned something where it kind of, it blew my mind, but he said, new level, new devil. And it means that no matter how high you go and no matter how high you climb, this feeling of not being happy is always going to be there. No matter how high you climb or no matter how much you try to attain, the baseline for happiness will always increase based off where you are currently in your life. So right now in your life, your happiness seems so far away. But the moment you reach that standard of happiness, it's also going to be far away. So I would say the best way to sort of kind of humble yourself in that experience and is to really just appreciate what you have in your hand. And we're left with this thing where they call it intergenerational competition theory, where we're always trying to make sure we're outpacing the previous generation or outpacing our previous selves. And then it means that life or the world isn't actually governed by greed, but that it's governed by envy. And that we're always looking for something else that someone else has, not because necessarily they have it, but because we believe we should have it too. And sometimes what's for them isn't for you. Your happiness is going to come by, and like I said, I'm not an expert on this, but something I'm learning in currently myself, is that my happiness is going to come by actually deciding to look at my situation and realize that where I am right now in my life is where I'm supposed to be. And I'm experiencing this very moment in time because I'm going to get to the next level, I'm going to get to that next situation, I'm going to get to that next place, and I'm going to just crave something else. So why don't I just actually take my circumstances and say, what I have in my hand is good for me in this current moment of time, and I'm only going to get better from there. But then this intergenerational competition theory sort of led me to another quote that when I was watching Fight Club, so, it's not that quote, whatever happens in Fight Club stays on Fight Club. But it was something that Tyler Durden said, which is a quote from before, but he mentioned that we are the middle child of history. Man, no purpose, no place. We have no Great War, no Great Depression. Our Great War is a spiritual war. Our Great Depression is our lives. We've all been raised on television to believe that one day we'd all be millionaires and movie gods and rock stars, but we won't. We're slowly learning that fact, and we're very, very pissed off about it. Now, this got me to sort of think, and like me having siblings as well, it made me realize that, and if you have siblings as well, you also know that this is a common fact, that you weren't raised by the same parent your sibling was, whether they're older than you or younger than you. You had different parents. Depending on how far the age gap was, you had a different parent at the time. And that's why we sit back sometimes and we look at life and say, if only I was born in the 90s or the 80s, or we like to look retrospectively and we like to look at and watch old films like Friends and, This My Wife and Kids and stuff like that, to take us back to a time where society was a better parent to us, or where society was a different parent to us. And that's why when we come to our parents, as in our actual biological human parents, and say to them, I'm going through this, I'm going through that, they struggle to actually interpret that, they struggle to compute that, because their Great Depression and their demons and their battles was all external. They had racism to fight, or they were traveling from one country to another trying to establish themselves, or they were dealing with women's rights, or depending on how far back we go as parents, because women's rights is quite a long time ago. But the point I'm trying to make is that all of their demons and all their battles were external. It was something they're physically facing. Compared to us, we don't have that. So our Great Depression, our battle, our World War One and Two, it's internal. It's a spiritual warfare. It's the warfare of the psyche. It's the warfare of the mind. And like I said, they don't know how to process that because they never had that battle. They never had that enemy. So it means that our parents' advice now is still valid to a degree, but we're having to completely relearn how to fight this warfare, and we're all learning it at the same time and in the same way as well. So it's like we're kind of grieving our lives in a way where the life that we thought we would have and the life that we thought that made sense. And it turns out that it just isn't really that right now. We are the most prepared and privileged generation with all the education, all the opportunities and provisions, but we are the most scared, the most unsure, the most dissatisfied, and we show the most lack of passion. And the only reason why is that because we were living off information from our parents or from a previous generation. And we need to understand that the parentage that they had from society is completely different to ours. And that's hard to process because, like I said previously, we live off expectation. And what we do is we try to raise our circumstances to our expectation. And when we can't do that, then that's when the frustration comes. And like I said, our minds look for a problem to solve. So in the chasm and in the void of really having no battle to really fight, we find ourselves fighting ourselves. And that kind of sums up really what we're all going through. At least for me, I found myself where I've looked at myself saying, what's next? What am I supposed to be doing? And this is why I'm doing this. I'm doing this podcast to kind of help myself and help other people in the same situation to kind of make sense of what we're all going through in this present time. So what I've practically learned is about staying present and staying content. I love how the Bible says in Isaiah 43, verse 18 to 19, it says, and I quote, it says, do not remember the former things or ponder the things of the past. Listen carefully, I am about to do a new thing. Now it will spring forth. Will you not be aware of it? And you can't keep looking forward or being able to see what's happening in front of you right now if you're constantly looking back. You have to understand that society was different back in the day, and just as society was different back in the day for your parents, it was also different for you 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. We went through COVID, and that completely changed the world we live in. It completely changed how we saw ourselves and how the workplace, friendships and relationships, it completely changed everything. So you have to get to a space where you're realizing that the world, and even how God has allowed the world to be, is He's doing a new thing. Life is doing a new thing. And you have to learn how to live in a state of non-resistance, learning to go with the flow and how to ebb and flow with these things and how to change with the seasons and learning the seasons. So it's important for us to not only just stay content, but also stay present. Even Ecclesiastes 7 verse 10 says, do not say, why were the old days better than these? For this is not a wise thing to ask. Accepting that life is different now is very important to stay present in the moment. It's a very old but true saying, but the grass isn't green on the other side. It's greener where you water it. So learning to understand your circumstances right now, whether it is you're not working or you are working, or you're not where you want to be or you are where you want to be, but you're still looking for something else, just understand that what you have right now is for you right now. And as you begin to invest and begin to work in yourself in that season and in that process, you'll be able to come out of that rut and come out of that difficulty and come out of that burdenous experience you're having right now. This is just a podcast an episode just to inspire hope and just to remind you that stay content, stay present, because what you have right now, you will never ever have it again. You will never have this moment in time again. So don't seek for the future and don't long for the past, but appreciate and value the present. So my key takeaway today is life is all about change. Learn the art of non-resistance. It's all about riding the wave. Happiness doesn't begin with you looking for something, but it exists in a relative state. It ebbs and flows based off the seasons, based off society, and based off changes. What was good today is not as good tomorrow. What is happy today and what is fun today and what's acceptable today is not the same as it was yesterday. So it's important to define happiness for you, not based off the past and no longer for the future, but based off experience, gratitude, and really appreciating how far you have come as a person. and knowing that the person you are today is someone who's grown, who has changed, and someone who's attained things and adapted. So if you enjoyed this episode and you felt this episode helped you even 1%, or it's helped someone that you might know, then I would love for you to like, subscribe, and write a comment in the comment section. I would love to interact with you a bit more about this topic, and most importantly, share it to someone. I feel like if you're in this phase of life, this podcast, this episode might have helped someone, if it's helped you. So share it, and hopefully I just pray that you come out of this season and we can all sort of have a smile on our faces. But yeah, I've been your host, King Shay, and you've been another episode of the King Suit Podcast.